Happy New Year, and welcome back to episode 3 of Limitless Sports with Brennan and Dave. I don't know about you, Brennan, but I had a great New Year. How about you?
Dave, it was a nice holiday. A couple of our friends came over to ring in the New Year. It was a nice night. A good day yesterday as well.
Definitely. I know I was kind of exhausted coming back from my trip to Atlanta, but it was definitely a great time. We're going to jump right in today because we have a lot of content to talk through. We're going to start with, really quickly, we talked about in our last podcast how our picks for the college football bowl games were very close. And ironically, our records were within one game. Brennan went 22-14 with 2 games to play, and I went 21-15. So that shows a lot about how well we are consistent with each other, but it was pretty kind of funny. How about you?
We also picked only, 6 games difference maybe?
Yeah, no, I think there were a couple more because I had a couple wins here and there as I was charting back and forth, but it was crazy.
It's just so hard to go through and keep track of your record because there's so many games, and then plus last minute games getting canceled, teams changing last minute. You know, A&M dropped out and Rutgers goes in, which was just a disaster.
Oh yeah,
But
I think it was funny because when I was charting it, it was different to see about how I would go LW, and trying to keep track of it, and then it looked off, and I thought I was off, but kind of cool. So not only were, like Brennan said, there were a couple cancellations. There were 5 bowl games that actually were canceled this year, and I want to talk about it real quick. The biggest one I had an issue with was the game with UCLA and NC State.
I heard NC State was getting dressed, and they got the call hey, this game was canceled.
Yeah, so it was, from what I've read, UCLA decided that morning that they weren't going to be able to play. They sent their equipment managers in, cleaned the locker room out. By the time they cleaned the locker room out, it was 4 hours before kick. NC State was trying to get to the game, and they canceled the game. I understand with this whole COVID-19 pandemic, it's ravaging. I get it. But if you don't have enough players to play 24 hours in advance, what are we doing? NC State wasted their holiday, went out, missed Christmas with their families, but they had to go sit and wait.
Or if some families were lucky enough to even travel to them, to see the game live.
That was my biggest worry.
The Hawaii Bowl as well. Those families were in Hawaii. I mean,
right.
Luckily you were in a vacation spot, so you can take that week.
I think that game was 48 hours in advance they canceled that one. I mean, it frustrated me, and it would scare me with going down to Atlanta because I was like, God forbid, what happens if
Pitt pulls out? Right. Michigan State pull out.
Yeah, it sucks. I mean, thankfully, there were 2 bowls that survived replacement teams because Central Michigan, I believe, whenever played in the Sun Bowl?
The Sun Bowl.
And then they got Rutgers to come off the bench and get trounced by Wake Forest. But, I mean, good for Rutgers at least get that experience.
I mean, that's good. They finally get into a bowl game, even though they only won 5-7. You really think with these games getting canceled, and a few of them being, games that used to have a huge following, like we talked about it before, like the Holiday Bowl, and the Sun Bowl was able to find a replacement really quick in Central Michigan. Do these games really matter?
We're going to get into that after the bowl season's over, because I want to let it finally recap and finish. But I agree with you. I think there's a definite issue and needs to be addressed sooner than later. But, all right, let's get into the opt-outs for a second. It was kind of hard. I was trying to figure out a way last night as I was prepping for today how to track how many players opted out. I got about 35 is what I've seen so far. And I know that number is not probably perfect.
When I was watching sports this morning, I think I counted in my head 30 to 35. It was a lot. And you know what? If you are a destined first-round pick, and you know it, it's okay if you're in a meaningless game. And when I say a meaningless game, everything that's not a New Year's Six game is meaningless.
Agreed.
So if you're playing in the Rose Bowl and you're, Ohio State, and your best player is saying, I'm not playing, that's a great prize to have, in your showcase, with the replica trophy and the ring.
Oh, yeah.
That's a great prize to have. But, some of those teams that played in those New Year's Six games actually showed up to play and actually acted like they wanted to be there.
I mean, here's 2 scenarios that I want to talk about with this. I mean, I agree with you completely. If there is a number 1 pick, first-round pick, I understand. I get it. Do I really, really want to understand it? No, because I like the whole pride aspect of playing for your school, playing for your brothers, doing all that aspect. But let's talk about two scenarios. So I went to a Pitt game, right? And Pitt's backup quarterback goes in. That's a heck of a drive.
Shattered his collarbone, right?
Runs to the pylon, scores a touchdown, shatters his collarbone. So Kenny Pickett's probably sitting there like, that could have been me. Matt Corral last night gets hurt. They don't know what he did, something ankle or leg or whatever. I mean, it looked nasty at first. He didn't come back in the game. So, I mean, I understand the aspect, but like you said, I get frustrated when it's like a 4th-round pick. Like Ohio State had 4 players opt out. Chris Olave and Garrett Wilson, 1st round, early 2nd round. Understandable. Nicholas Petit for Ferrer, offensive tackle, he's not going to get past the 4th round. He didn't play.
And you know what? We were missing 8 starters. Penn State was on the whole team yesterday. And only one of them's a 1st-round pick. Jahan Dawson, he's a 1st-round pick.
Right.
You know, him, Olave, and Wilson, they're saying they're going to be 3 of the first 5 receivers off the board.
I think it's stupid, but I want to talk about more later on when we can actually digest some of that stuff. But I think we're on the same wave path of 1st-round pick, understandable. Non-1st-round pick, what are you doing?
And I'm tired of hearing from people, and I was getting into it on Facebook with people today, of why aren't coaches held to the same standards as players? Because, you know, we're saying players should play no matter what. And that's not the case. A school signs you. You sign a letter of intent to play, which is the same thing as a contract. That school, whoever it would be, Alabama, Michigan, Georgia, whoever, is taking that chance on you. You could show up to training camp or off-season workouts day one, shatter your knee, ankle, whatever, and never be able to play again. But they're still going to pay for your college.
See, I'm torn on this aspect, though. The coaching aspect really frustrates me, too. Why the coaching carousel starts after the last regular season game and not before bowl season frustrates me. Like, you use 2 examples of coachings that I saw moved after their bowl game. Pitt's receivers coach. Signed that deal with Texas, but they announced it the day after the game. Last night, they finally announced Matt Barnes, Ohio State's defensive coordinator, is going to go to Memphis to be their DC. I understand that when it's after a game. Kirk Herbstreit made that whole comment yesterday in game day about the love of the game.
It's not there anymore.
It's not, but I do feel, though, that it needs to be even between the coaching and the players. It's frustrating because the coach signed that deal too. I mean, you're paying all that money. I don't know.
And not to interrupt, but you know what? You don't see everything. Some things are kept behind closed doors. For the school's reputation, for the coach's reputation. Brian Kelly wanted to coach his team in the Fiesta Bowl. And Notre Dame said no. So, like I said, we don't know what goes on with every one of these jobs. One of these coaches, some may want to coach, some may say, I need to get to work. If it was like Brett Pry and Virginia Tech going to Virginia Tech, he wasn't even at the game yesterday with his guys one last time.
No, because he was at Virginia Tech's game, but didn't coach. Like Brett Venables was at Oklahoma's game, didn't coach. I appreciate that. But you know what I don't appreciate, though? So yesterday, during the game, a corner for Ohio State, his name's Marcus Williamson. Westerville kid, local kid. He didn't play a lot this year, so he actually sat out of the game, and no one knew why. We all thought he just tested positive for COVID. And he went on a tirade last night on Twitter, and basically just exposed, quote unquote, exposed some aspects of Ohio State's program that I didn't agree with. And like one of his quotes was, "As a 17-year-old early enrollee, Urban Meyer told me he would ruin my effing life if he ever caught me smoking." And then went on another one and posted this picture from his first team meeting. This picture of him was presented via PowerPoint about how the building-wide rule of no hoods in the building. So I'll send you some of this stuff. It's crazy because you have those aspects where, Kirk Herbstreit talking about the love of the game. Then you have this stuff going on, and it's like. And a lot of former players have quoted it and said this is not true, yada yada yada. I mean, Urban Meyer has had his issues. If you look all the way back to Florida,
Even past Florida, Utah, and Bowling Green, everywhere.
I want to see his 30. I want to see a 30 for 30 on the whole Utah team with everybody that was arrested and died and killed. But I do have a problem with taking to light some of the things that he talked about yesterday in Twitter. And I think it's a big issue that if there wasn't such a social media following anymore, we would never know about this stuff.
Oh, no, absolutely.
I mean, social media's done a lot of great things. I mean, it's prevented our podcast. It's talked about a lot of great things for us, but I think it's ruined more than it's done good. So let's jump into some recaps. Two quick games that I wanted to recap before we talk into our New Year's Sixes were two games that one game that I covered and one game that I watched a lot. Did you watch any of that Purdue-Tennessee game?
I did. A few of me and my colleagues, we went to happy hour after work on Thursday, and we saw a good bit of it.
Man.
That is what a bowl game is all about. I know it's not a New Year's Six or one of the bigger ticket bowls, but it was still a great game.
We sat here and we said Tennessee should crush Purdue. Purdue had no chance.
Oh, Brandon Bell, that's his name. Bell didn't play for them.
Yeah,
he opted out.
So I pulled up their stats a little bit. Aiden O'Connell, quarterback for Purdue, 534 yards, 5 scores, 3 interceptions. So Purdue
that should have
play a
honored
perfect
them.
Game. Hendon Hooker, though, 378 in the air, 5 scores for Tennessee. Tennessee played more of a perfect game. Purdue didn't. There's a controversial forward progress call to end the game in overtime. I don't know. I don't like the rule those a lot, but crazy game to watch. The other one I want to talk about real quick too was one that I covered yesterday, the Kentucky-Iowa game. Kentucky beat Iowa 20-17.
And you know what? We thought Kentucky was going to go out there and whoop Iowa's ass.
I know.
You know what?
So Wandel Robinson, who I think is I don't know if I would say underrated, but in my opinion he's underrated because I don't know a lot about him and I don't think he gets a lot of the press that he deserves. 10 receptions, 170 yards. He set up their final score because it was 17-13 Iowa. And Kentucky was driving down. It was like 4 or 5 minutes left. Throws a pick. Iowa gets the ball back. They stop him, but they pin him deep. And Wandel made a heck of a play on this one ball. I think he took it for like 30, 40 yards all the way down and set him up in the red zone and scored their touchdown. But what was crazy, though, is I think Iowa actually had more yards than Kentucky by 30, but Kentucky controlled the time possession by 15 minutes. It was 37 minutes to 22 minutes, which is insane. If you think about Iowa, whose team is just like ground and pound and just... I
mean, we're so used to watching them so much in the Big Ten from them playing Ohio State, Penn State.
Right.
If they can't run the ball, they don't succeed. They don't win games.
I know. But, all right, let's talk about some of our New Year's Six recaps. You want to go first as well?
Yeah, sure. We'll go with the Fiesta Bowl first. Now, I originally picked Notre Dame in this game, and I stuck with my pick.
I did not, and I think I actually won that one, but go ahead.
So I took the Fighting Irish. I figured, they'd come out fast, and they did. They went up 14-0 really fast on the Pokes. And then Oklahoma State was in a heartbreaker in the Big 12 title game, and I thought that would roll over a little bit a few weeks later into this Fiesta Bowl. In halftime, the Irish were up by 2 scores, 28-14.
You know what's crazy, though? 3 or 4 minutes before half, it was 28-7.
Yeah.
Nuts. Go ahead.
In the second half, it was a completely different game. The Pokes came out and scored 23 straight points. And we're up 37-28 with a little bit of time left for the Irish. They managed to score late to make it 37-35. That would be the final for the Fiesta Bowl. Oklahoma State holds on to win. But like I said, Notre Dame fans, there's a lot to look forward to with Marcus Freeman.
For his first game, I think it was a heck of a game.
I mean, you only had 3 weeks to prepare, almost a whole month.
The only thing I was frustrated with was he didn't make any second half adjustments. It's always when you're up by 2 scores in halftime. Yeah, should you make a lot of halftime adjustments? Probably not, but you got to figure out some things to do a little bit differently to keep your foot on the gas.
You need to come out and get some kind of points, make it a 17-point lead, a 21-point lead, and then try to milk the clock.
I think their huge issue was the fact that their running back had not playing.
And you know what? You thought this was going to be defensive slugfest. Oklahoma State's defense was outstanding all year. Notre Dame's defense.
Why did Oklahoma State's defense struggle in the first half?
Why?
Yeah.
Ian Book was balling.
Nope.
Or not Ian Book, my fault. Jack Connell.
Coaching carousel. Oklahoma State's defensive coordinator 3 weeks ago agreed to be Ohio State DC. He didn't coach in this game. Like other offensive coordinators and DCs did, they coached. He didn't coach. So I think whoever was calling the plays took them a while to figure out how to do this.
What was going on?
Second half, they made their second half adjustments. They shut it down. So I agree. Jack Cohen did go off 509, 5 scores, heck of a game. But they lost their running back, and that's what hurt. They couldn't run the ball yesterday. 42 yards, average 2 yards a carry.
Very un-Notre Dame-like from years past. Usually that's what they rely on heavily is the ground game, and then that's why they lose games.
And they gave up 234 yards on the ground. Like, I hats off to Spencer Sanders from Oklahoma State. 371 in the air, 4 scores, 125 yards rushing as a quarterback.
When he fumbled inside, I think it was the 15 or the 10-yard line, and Notre Dame recovered, I'm like, here we go. This is the same story against Baylor.
Don't get me on those fumbles, because we'll talk about the fumble later. But, it was a heck of a game. I was upset at first because it was a blowout, but then they made it a good game. That was a good New Year's Six game.
The committee always picks decent matchups. Most of the time. We'll get into that here in a little bit.
All right, so that's yours. I'll do one of mine. Let's go down into Atlanta. Peach Bowl. Crazy atmosphere. It felt like it was a huge stadium to go to, first of all. Like, it was nuts. But
was that your first time at the new one? Since they built it a few years ago?
I was at the old Georgia Dome, but the new one's the first time. We sat up in the third level. But we were in the first row, so it wasn't really that bad.
No, and it's nicer to sit up higher because you can see the play develop, especially if you have a football IQ like me and you do.
Jordan Addison had a heck of a play where he ran basically from one sideline to another sideline and had a heck of a play. I could see the whole thing develop. I saw the open space open up. But we talked about it earlier with the opt-out. So Kenny Pickett opted out of the game. Kenneth Walker opted out of the game. You got Pitt playing their second-string quarterback.
Your two best players weren't playing.
So Pitt opens up their second-string quarterback, Nick Patty. They struggled a little bit because I think he threw the ball a little differently than Kenny did. A couple drops early on, but then he let a nice drive down, ran for the end zone, hit the pylon, broke his collarbone. So you got this kid, Davis Bevel, hasn't played all year ever.
Probably didn't get any reps in practice ever.
So 75% of the game he has to go in. I'll give him credit. They changed their game plan a little bit. He went 14 for 18, 149 yards. Conservative. 1 touchdown, 1 big interception that's on Pat Narduzzi's shoulders. Jordan Addison had a heck of a game, 7 catches, 114 yards. But Connor Hayward, Cam Hayward's brother, had a heck of a catch in the end zone. Michigan State's receivers, for not being a passing team and being known for Kenneth Walker running the ball here, made some great plays that night.
Oh, they did. And you know what? It was funny. They said right before the game started, and I was going to text you this, Pitt has never beat Michigan State.
Really?
Ever.
Seriously?
Ever.
Wow. That's crazy.
And, this was a sentimental game for Narduzzi. He was their DC for a long time.
Oh, yeah. But here's my issue. So it's 21-16. And Michigan State scores 24-21. You get the ball back.
They
went for 2, yeah. You get the ball back. You start driving down. They were at the 40-yard line with a minute left.
They had timeouts, too, didn't they?
Timeouts. Tons of time left. The rookie quarterback, in my opinion. Why did he make him force the ball? He kept forcing it and forcing it. He got lucky on some, and then it came back to bite him in the butt. Interception return for the touchdown, game over.
Instead of just freshman mistakes.
Right. Instead of just running the ball a little bit and just saying, screw it, we're going to go for the field goal. He tries to force that touchdown. Comes back to kick him. So, great game, though. I felt bad for Pitt. Their defense played well.
That's what kept them in the game for the most part, I believe.
And definitely, I think this is not the end for Pitt, because Kendon Slovis, or however you pronounce his first name, coming in from USC, I think he's going to step in and just basically...
If Pitt wins less than 9 games next year, that's a disappointment. The ACC is a disaster.
Agreed. All right, go ahead. What was your other New Year's Six? You had the snooze fest last
So
night,
when we picked games, it went you took one, I took one, and I got stuck with the Sugar Bowl. Which
I thought
when we were picking games, You know, we thought, oh, this is going to be a good game. You know, high scoring, Big 12, SEC. Well, what a complete waste of a New Year's Six game.
I will say that
Matt Corral went down.
Before you get your updates, I will say, heck of a defensive game, though. The defensive played really well.
Baylor's defense was actually very impressive all year. Them and Oklahoma State in the Big 12, which you don't talk about defense. Usually it's fast break basketball, first to 45 wins.
Right.
But, man, this game,
go ahead.
It was a waste. Matt Corral went down early. We just talked about this a little bit ago. Potential opt-out. But he said, you know what, I'm going to go win one more with my guys and Coach Kiffin. You know, they were completely doomed as soon as the game started and he got hurt. Baylor relied on their ground game heavily the entire game. Both sides played stingy defense to keep the score very lowing. At halftime, it was only 7-0 Bears.
On an interception return.
Yeah. The second half, it was Ole Miss finding the game-tying score on with Braylon Sanders with a touchdown catch. In the fourth, though, it was all Baylor. Baldwin a 48-yard run to the house. Bears were up 14-7, and a few minutes later, Baylor put the nail in the coffin with one final TD. Baylor won the Sugar Bowl 21-7.
I think the issue was Matt Corral getting hurt. But
I think if he would have played, I think it would have been, you know, the game that we thought would have lived up to the hype.
I don't know though, like how much Baylor would have scored in that game. Because watching their offense, they weren't that good at all. They ran the ball well, really well. But they couldn't really well. All right, let's go into my game. Ohio State comes back, storming back to win 48-45. Jesus.
If the Utah quarterback wouldn't have got hurt when he did, I think we'd be talking the other way.
I think the game would have went into overtime.
See, I don't know. They were up by 10, right?
Yeah.
Or was it 7 at that point?
I forget. But you look at it. So 48-45. And we left 2 touchdowns on the board. You know, CJ throws an interception in the end zone. Jackson Smith and Jigba fumbles the ball on the 5.
I couldn't believe that.
Like, so, I mean, if you put those 2 14 points in there, that's 62-45.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think Utah could stop us enough. The issue last night was when could Ohio State make a stop? When can Ohio State make a stop? Second half, they made adjustments. They finally slowed them down in the second half. But you're right. Cameron Rising had a huge game for Utah. Solid quarterback. Decent arm. Can run well. I remember that 4th down play. I was like, why is Utah going for it on 4th down? Well, Ohio State can't stop the run if they had Jesus on their side. And he just breaks that one tackle out of the middle of nowhere and it just storms off for a touchdown. I'm like, oh.
See, because he had the first down. I thought he was just going to go down. You know, they were going to hurry up, get to the line.
I thought he was going to roll off the
they were
pile
going to call
and
something else.
Fall over.
Mm-hmm.
And then he just keeps going. But some crazy statistics that show that Ohio State offensively demolished that game last night. The yardage comparison was 683 to 463. So they had over 220 more yards than Utah did. There's no reason why that game was that close. Shouldn't have been. But the issue again, Utah was balanced, like we talked about last week. You know,
they averaged 245 on the ground and like 241 in the air.
It was like I think it was 212 and somewhere around 212s and 220s, but 226 on the ground, 237 in the air last night.
You can't get much more balance than that. And you know
No.
what? That if you can run the ball competently against Ohio State, they're done.
Well,
in any game, that's why they lost the 2 games they lost this year.
Right, and you look at the issue that we have defensively. It's up the middle. We're not having the explosive end play that we've had with Chase Young and the Bosa brothers. Zach Harrison's good. Our young guys are good, but we don't have the nose guys to stop the run. Like, I'll give credit to Teron Vincent, number 6. He had a heck of a game yesterday. Did a nice job. But our linebackers are just terrible. I mean, when you have a converted running back from last year playing a lot last night, heck of a guy. And you got a tight end who played tight end all season long until bowl season and then went and played linebacker last night and made plays. That's a problem about your linebacking depth and your coaching. So, I know we got Jim Knowles coming in to be the new DC, but I'm interested to see who's leaving. I hope the linebacker coach.
You see, and you'll probably agree with me on this. From us watching the Big Ten so much and growing up until now, anytime you guys, because I have to watch you guys because, I have to play every year. When you guys have a great defense, your offense is horrible.
Mm-hmm.
When you guys have an outstanding offense, the defense can't stop a runny nose.
No. And you talk about, our defense not being able to stop them, but geez. Jackson Smith and Jigba last night. 15 catches, 347 yards, 3 scores. Should have had a 4th touchdown, but he didn't. On the year, he finished with 95 catches, 1,606 yards, and 9 scores. Absolutely insane. I know you're not a big fan of C.J. Stroud, but he threw for 573 and 6 scores last night. Some of the throws he was making were some of the most accurate throws I've seen Ohio State quarterback make. He was just putting the ball there.
We were texting last night, during the Rose Bowl and the Sugar Bowl a little bit. C.J. Stroud, there's games he looks like, oh my God, this is the guy. He's going to be a first-round pick.
Yep.
And then there's some games, against Nebraska, Penn State, where he looks lost. And he should have lost them games, but they managed, the defense managed to make a play, or they,
I think the issue with him, though, is it's his freshman mistakes. His first year. I think the bowl game prepped him a lot. We'll see. But the player I was impressed with was Marvin Harrison Jr., man. I knew he was the next coming in that wide receiver room, and we were deep, but going into that game from last year, if you take that receiver room from last year, you're not with no Chris Olave, no Garrett Wilson, Jamison Williams playing in Alabama. So you're your 4th player from last year. JSN goes off. So it's who's next? And we had these all big recruits, and I said Marvin Harrison might come out today and just ball out. 6 catches, 71 yards, and 3 scores. And some of the routes that he was making made players look silly. So I decided to see that. Last thing I want to talk about in that game, though, is Britton Covey, though. Huge threat. That little kid, man, good receiver, but he made this quote, I told him on Twitter last night, that he saw somebody pregame and he said, watch Jeremy on the kickoff tonight. I'm going to have a great game. What's he do? 7 returns, 208 yards, and 1 score. Why Ohio State decided to continue to kick the ball to him? 1, stupid. They couldn't stop Utah. I would have just said, screw it, after the first 2 times they scored. I wouldn't even kick the ball off, onside kick. Or just kick it out of bounds and get the ball to 35. I don't know. Crazy game for Ohio State. Glad they came back and won. Proud of them, but nuts. So, let's jump into the the playoff. So, why don't you go ahead with your game with Georgia, Michigan?
Well, first of all, what a shocker is all I have to say. This was the game that everyone's been waiting for in the playoff. A 2 versus 3 that is very comparable. They're very close.
Very similar.
And you know what? Michigan's defense all year was fantastic. Mm-hmm. And they ended the season, with some games on the road where they usually struggle. Penn State, hostile environment, on the road. Maryland, hostile environment, on the road. And, then they beat you guys at the big house and go and crush. Pulverize Iowa. And, everyone's like, you know what? Man, this team can make some noise. Alabama versus Michigan sounds fun. Georgia comes out and steamrolls. And the score at halftime, they could have ended that game at halftime, merciful, 27-3.
They could have ended that game at the end of the first quarter, for God's sake. I mean, I give credit to the Georgia offensive line coach. His preparation for this game, going against those 2 defensive line, man, he deserves the MVP.
And you know what? Everyone was talking about, writing Georgia off after the SEC championship game. I was like, you know what? Nick Saban's Nick Saban. Georgia's going to... They weren't playing for nothing. They knew they were in. No matter win, lose, tie, whatever. We're in.
Well, I remember we sat here and talked about...
Michigan was playing for a national championship still at that point. You're like, hey... Then
we'll get to that. Hold on.
New Year's Eve happens. And
the Stetson Bennett, though, I think we sat here and said, I don't know, can he lead this team to victory?
You know what? They didn't have the ground game they usually have against Michigan.
No.
They came out and aired it out.
3-13, 3 scores. Yeah.
And he only missed 10 passes.
It was nuts. I mean, you talk about Michigan, though, playing for the national championship.
How about Dalvin Cook's little brother?
Is that who that was?
Yeah. 4 catches, 112 yards, and TD.
I saw that. Had a big splash play. I don't think Michigan wanted to win. I think their their national championship to them was beating Ohio State for the first time in 10 years. 8 years, whatever it's been. Winning the Big Ten for first time for a while. They achieved what they could achieve. They knew they weren't going to beat Alabama. I feel like Harbaugh got outcoached 100%. But
we also talked about McNamara. He only threw 15 touchdowns all year. He averaged 1 a game.
Did you watch J.J. McCarthy played better than McNamara?
And you know what? Michigan's future quarterback, they finally have one. They're going to have for a couple years.
He's good. I'll give him credit. He can run.
I mean, he played against the best defense in the country, all year.
But you talk about Josh Gaddis being a heck of an offensive coordinator. If you would see the size, statistically the size of Georgia's defensive line.
They're bigger than most pros.
Why are you running the ball up the middle? Why? It wasn't working. Go outside.
Bounce to the outside. Sweeps. End arounds.
Something. I mean, and they did that a couple times when they had that, I forget what they call it, either their trap play or something, where they got those two offensive linemen pulling in one direction. I mean, it worked. But Caden McNamara wouldn't run the ball. Put J.J. McCarthy in.
But like me and you said, these teams were very comparable. Once you get up 14-0, 17-0, 10-0 even on Georgia or Michigan, the game's over. Mm-hmm. They're not built to come back. They rely on the ground game too much. I don't know. And you know what? It was just a complete shit show on Michigan's end. And you know what? I think they got the 4 teams right.
Yes.
But this is getting to the point where we shouldn't be talking about expansion. We should be talking about going back to how the BCS used to be.
I think we talked about this at the beginning of the year.
Even that layoff kills kids. I think that's why part of Michigan's problem. I mean,
right.
They were steamrolling the last 4 or 5 weeks.
They had the momentum. I think the issue, though, I'm still in favor of expansion. We'll talk about that later. I think the issue this year was there was just 1 and 2. I believe Michigan,
1, 2, and everybody else.
Everybody else. I believe Michigan had the momentum, and that's why they carried themselves to the end of the season. Cincinnati, they did a great job, but there was nobody else. Trust me,
we'll get into Cincinnati here in a minute.
I wanted Ohio State in that game. We could not defensively hold up either two of those SEC teams.
No, and you know why? Because they both can run the ball.
Right, and that's what I'm saying. We couldn't have done anything. So I mean,
how about Alabama? You thought they were going to come out there and just air it out because that's what they did all year. Alabama came out in there and had a hell of a game on the ground.
Let's talk about it. So Alabama run through Cincinnati 27-6. Brian Robinson, who stuck around behind, who was the first guy? Dorian Harris, or what was his name before Najee? They had a running back there, Alabama. I forget his name.
Oh,
another Harris had a heck of a year, right?
Damian Harris. There we go.
Then Najee has a heck of a year. Brian Robinson, I think he's a 5th-year senior, stuck around. And we talked about this. Alabama doesn't have the running game they had for the last couple of years, but he says, "Screw you all! I'm going in the semifinal. 26 carries, 204 yards." Heck of a game on the ground. Was running with passion. Bryce Young was average in his terms of yards, but he had 3 scores at 181 yards. I'll give credit, though. Cincinnati's corners were really good. And they've talked about them all year, how they're first-round level cornerbacks. They played a heck of a game. I mean, they shut down Jamison Williams. The issue was that Mechie, whatever, hit that guy. He was out, so they lost the deep threat for them. They really didn't have anything else behind Jamison. They said that they've been saying that all year long. I'll give credit to Cincinnati; they hung around. But the question that I'm always going to say is, did Saban actually coach? I don't think he did.
You know what? We're going to go back a few years here. Remember when they played Washington in the Peach Bowl?
Yep, hung around.
They do enough
just to win.
Yeah. They don't want to show everything they have against someone they know they're going to beat regardless, and then have to go on to play Clemson or Georgia. Remember that one year they played Oklahoma in the Orange Bowl?
Yeah.
Oklahoma came back, made it a game. They had to start playing.
Right.
Clemson dogged them in the national championship 44-16.
I just don't think that. I don't think he coached. I really don't. I think he did enough just to manage and win the game. They could have pummeled Cincinnati.
Oh, they could have won that game 54-13.
Yeah. We'll talk about the preview for next for the final next week. But there is our kind of a recap from some of our games. And we talked a little bit more in depth than we wanted to, but let's move on to the NFL. So we got 2 weeks left. We decided we're going to break this up into 3 different segments today. So we've got a little bit of a preview. We each took 2 games. And then I told Brendan this morning we're going to rapid fire picks, because I like this picking aspect. And then we're going to talk about the Steelers a little bit at the end. We're going to save some of that conversation for the end. So let's jump in. I'll go ahead first and do my first one. So I took the Raiders and the Colts today.
I think playing for playoff spots.
I think this is a big game.
Both ends, I mean.
But I don't think the score's going to show it at the end, though. We're going to talk about that right now. So, a couple of issues. Wentz tested positive for COVID Monday.
Comeback player of the year, in my opinion.
Monday, Tuesday. They changed the whole COVID protocols, so he's eligible to play today. He came off COVID protocol yesterday. So the question to me is he going to do okay coming off the protocol? Vegas's defense, I don't know. They're solid, but we'll see. I think Jonathan Taylor has to have a huge day for them to win. So I looked it up. He is 374 yards away from 2,000.
Yes, with 2 games left.
2 games left. But the playoffs technically count to that, don't they?
I don't think so. I think they go off regular season stats.
They go off. Because, the bowl games, they count to their stats, too, which is just weird. I think he could probably clinch it, but we'll see if they play. Depends on what happens in the Titans game today, next week. But I give them a lot of credit. I watched them on Christmas Day. They had a lot of players out in the secondary and a lot of players out up front. Can they get those defensive players back and step up even more? Because they played up a really nice game against Arizona. But their last 5 games, they've only lost 1 game in the last 5. To who? Tampa. 38-31. They beat Arizona 22-16. Almost playoff team. I don't think they're going to get in. We'll see. 27-17 against New England, playoff team. 31-0 win against Houston, who's streaking right now. They're getting better. 38-31 loss to Tampa, and a 41-15 win to Buffalo.
Smash Buffalo, and Buffalo was the team to beat in the AFC at that point in the season.
Right. The Raiders, can Derek Carr do enough to win the game? He's thrown well in terms of yardage this year. 4,363 yards.
Turnovers are a problem. 12 interceptions.
And can he do enough? Can Josh Jacobs counter what Jonathan Taylor's going to do today? I don't think he can. But here's where their last 5 games aren't too bad, but they're close wins. 17-13 over Denver, 16-14 over Cleveland, crushing 48-9 loss over Kansas City, 17-15 loss over Washington, and a 36-33 win in overtime over Dallas. Not bad game.
That was Thanksgiving Day, I think.
Thanksgiving Day, yes. Give me Indianapolis 28-17 today.
You know what? I'm gonna go with you. I'm gonna take Indianapolis here. Have you seen the spread of this game?
No, I didn't even look at it.
8. Whew. And you know what? Wentz, they struggled at the beginning of the year. Indianapolis struggled. They were out of the playoff picture for a while.
Right.
And you know what? Wentz, if not winning, should be mentioned for comeback player of the year.
I think I don't know.
Taylor,
success is because
Pittman is 30 yards away. Actually, 29 yards away from a 1,000-yard season.
981.
He has
971.
971. 5 scores.
He's a good receiver.
They have a lot of weapons there. Pittman, Hilton, tight ends, Mo Alley Cox, running game.
Yeah, I agree. I just,
offensive line.
In my opinion, comeback player of the year is the catalyst. I don't think he's the catalyst for that team.
You don't think so?
No. I think without Jonathan Taylor, they don't succeed.
So you think of, what's his name, Nick Eason's in there, they're okay?
No, I don't. But what I'm saying is if Jonathan Taylor's not playing and you're running with Marlon Mack and Nyheim Hines or whatever that kid's name is.
I still think they'd win games.
Yeah, I don't think they're dominating.
Because Jacksonville and Houston are just that bad. So,
yeah,
you got to give wins right there.
Too.
Probably one of the best in the NFL, them in Dallas.
Quentin Nelson's a very phenomenal guard. But all right, go ahead to one of your games.
Okay, so I took Kansas City at Cincinnati. Teams. Kansas City's coming off another blowout win.
You know what's sad though? This is a 1 o'clock game today.
This is a 1 o'clock game, and I'm wearing my home shirt right now.
Why did they put this at 4:25? Blows my mind, but
Kansas City won another blowout game over the stumbling Steelers. The Chiefs are the hottest team in the NFL right now and are a major threat to bring home the Lombardi again. Cincinnati's the top of the AFC North and have a comfortable lead over the rest of the pack. Cincinnati's been red hot, and they're a little ahead of schedule as a young team. Don't you agree?
Mm-hmm.
So Kansas City, they struggled early in the season. They started off the season 3-4, but they caught fire. 11-4 right now. Already clinched the AFC West.
Wait, so they started 3-4.
3-4.
So they've won 8 straight?
Yes.
Wow.
I'm hoping they win today and lose next week, so that way they don't go to the playoffs and get disappointed. But anyway, they traded for Melvin Ingram from Pittsburgh. Defense has been lights out.
They're not 11-4.
Since. Chiefs?
Kansas City's 11. Oh, you said.
Yeah,
Chiefs have won 8 in a row.
Yes.
Oh, I thought you meant the Bengals.
No, the Bengals are 9-6.
Okay, I got you. Good. Wow. Good. Sorry.
So they don't. The only thing that worries me about Kansas City right now, they don't have a clear-cut number 2 wide receiver.
No.
It's Hill and Kelsey, then it's everybody else. But you know what? When they need a play, they can rely on Hardman. They can rely on Pringle. And that's what matters. And they even have Josh Gordon, who's making some plays for them here and there. Cincinnati, like I said, a young team. Very ahead of schedule. Joe Burrow has been nothing short of outstanding for the Bengals. Cincinnati has a very young trio of wide receivers. Tyler Boyd, T. Higgins, and rookie sensation. Probably the rookie of the year, Jamar Chase.
I don't think he's
fantastic.
Maybe do they do them by AFC and NFC, or is it just?
I think they do
the
separate ones, and then they do them together as well.
I don't think he'll be overall best rookie. I get it to Micah Parsons, but heck of a year.
Joe Mixon is probably the most underrated running back in the entire NFL. It is a touchdown machine. The Bengals' defense isn't the best at anything, but they're good enough to help that team win games. And the pick, both of these teams are hard now. The Bengals can make a statement this weekend, but they're not. I think the Chiefs make defensive plays or 2 to get some guys back from the COVID list and win this game. The AFC North will be undecided going into Week 17. Chiefs, 34-24. Sandwich game, Dave. Sandwich game.
I have the Chiefs as well. I really wanted to pick the Bengals. I think it's going to be one of the closest games this week. I think the Bengals, like you said, they're a year away. Joe Burrow's having a heck of a year. And it was cool to see. Jamar Chase is having a great year, but they're even statistically. T. Higgins, Tyler Boyd, Jamar Chase are within like 5 or 6 or 7.
They spread the love around down there.
Which is great. And I appreciate that. Joe Mixon, they're a phenomenal offense. They're what I want to see in Pittsburgh.
And you know what? Joe Burrow could really favor Chase because they're best friends in college, roommates in college at LSU.
Were they roommates that 1 year?
They said that 1 year they were roommates.
Oh, wow. So, let's go into my game. I took Dolphins-Titans.
Great game. Miami's hot.
So, Miami's won 7 in a row. When you look at their statistics, though, I don't know how they're winning. Their defense is playing well. They have 2 solid corners. But, statistically, they're not really blowing teams out. They're hanging around in games, but they're winning. They're doing what it takes to win in December. Jalen Waddle, though, as a rookie,
fantastic.
I think he's having a better year than Chase is.
It's close.
96 catches, 941 yards, and 5 scores. But my question mark today is the defense on both sides. Can Miami's defense hold up on Tennessee? Can Tennessee's defense hold up on Miami?
And you know what? If Tennessee would have Derrick Henry, I think the talk would be who's the best team in the AFC, Tennessee or Kansas City.
Agreed.
But
I will give them credit.
Tennessee's still finding ways to win games.
Last week they did because AJ Brown came back.
Mm-hmm.
So can he have another big game today? I don't know. And the other issue is, will Tannehill not turn the ball over? When he turns the ball over, they lose. Look at the Steeler game. They lost because he turned the ball over.
And a lot of people were thinking Tannehill was going to be, the guy this year. 15 touchdowns, 14 interceptions. Not the best year.
You look at their down the stretch, okay? 5 games on the stretch, they've gone 2-3.
Mm-hmm.
A win over San Francisco, who I think is an overrated team.
Good team, but overrated.
Good team. 6-point loss to the Steelers. 20-0 over Jacksonville. I take that out of the equation. It doesn't matter to me. And they got crushed by New England, 36-13, and lost to Houston, 22-13. Give me the Dolphins, 21-17 today.
I'm gonna go out on a limb here. This game's in Nashville.
Oh, is it in Nashville? I didn't really see that.
Yeah, I'm looking at it right now on my MacBook. It says Miami at Tennessee. Nashville, probably colder there today. Maybe some rain. Give me Tennessee. And what's crazy, just listen to this. Derrick Henry can come back and play next week. I don't think he's going to.
I think
they're going to be ready for the wild card weekend game. He needs like 70 yards for 1,000 yards.
Ooh, you know what's crazy? Put up their the weather today. So the game time temperature is going to be about 39 degrees. Okay. Rain, snow mix all game long. 13-mile-an-hour winds.
Neither one of these teams has a running back that can go out there and is a go-getter that can win them this game.
Looking at this more, I'm staying with the Dolphins. Tannehill's going to turn the ball over in the rain. But, did you make a pick? I forgot.
I took Tennessee.
Okay, good. All right, get on your second game, and then we're into the rapid-fire picks.
So we were going through games, and then, one that caught my eye was Arizona at Dallas.
I think it's going to be a good game.
Going to be a good game. Both these teams can score points. I mean, we can just say that right now. Have tremendous depth at receiver, both teams. Dallas has the edge defensively. Arizona started off the season 7-0. Everyone's like, oh my God, like look at this team. They're fun to watch. And they stumbled quite a bit, losing 5 of their last 8.
I didn't realize Cliff Kingsbury, though, is trend for him. He starts hot, he can't finish.
7-1 on the road this year, Arizona. 7-1.
Okay. Why are they losing at home?
I don't know. Dallas finally gets everyone healthy these last few weeks before the holidays. They really got it rolling last week against Washington, racking up nearly 60 points. The boys' defense has been sensational under 2 newcomers, second-year cornerback Trayvon Diggs. It has been nothing but sensational for the Cowboys secondary this season. He reminds you a lot of Deion Sanders if you watch him.
Plays a great game. How about your boy, though?
The other newcomer, superstar Micah Parsons out of Penn State.
I always said when he came out of
Parsons is a dude.
Yes, 100%.
Who can line up anywhere, defensive end. He'll rush a middle linebacker. He'll drop back into coverage and make plays. And not with just tight ends. He'll cover a wide receiver. He's fast.
Oh, yeah.
He tried out for wide receiver at Penn State. He wanted to play offense.
Wow.
And, James Franklin shot that down in a heartbeat.
I'd say he'd be a phenomenal tight end. I don't know.
Oh, yeah. Parsons is on pace for defensive rookie of the year and potentially rookie of the year in general. Dallas is hitting on all cylinders right now and could be a major threat in the NFC postseason.
Definitely.
And you know what? I'm going to admit right now, I was wrong on Dallas. I thought they'd be good. They're great. This is a great football team.
I didn't trust Dak Prescott at the beginning. But
oh, absolutely not. The only thing that scares me, they don't have a solid running game, but between Elliott and Pollard, they're good.
I don't understand why they don't, though. Like, for years they've had...
Elliott's old. Elliott's older now. He's in, the year 6 or 7?
Yeah, I don't know.
He's starting to gain weight.
Yeah, I think that's half this problem.
Arizona, the Cardinals were that team on me all season. And I don't know about you. I knew they were fake. I knew it.
I didn't think they were.
They're a good football team. They're young. They've overachieved. They played a third-place schedule.
Yeah.
If they didn't win at least 10 games, it would be a disappointment this year. Arizona is a little short-handed, losing J.J. Watt early in the year.
I think that's what's killing them.
And they lost DeAndre Hopkins. He'll be back in a few weeks for the postseason. Free agent running back James Conner, who I can't stand, has been phenomenal for the Cards since leaving Pittsburgh. Kyler Murray is going to be in the MVP talk. If he balls out these last 2 weeks, Cards win the West.
I forgot. I made a comment earlier that I didn't think the Cardinals would get in. They're actually in the playoffs already. They clinched.
Did they?
Yeah. I didn't think they did because they've been just reeling so much lately. They've clinched. So there's only 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's 2 spots left. Because you have Dallas winning the division, Green Bay won the division, Tampa won the division, and then LA and Arizona. So who you got? Arizona this?
So my pick. I wasn't a believer in either one of these teams all season long. I'm still not in on the Cardinals. The Cardinals are slumping. Dallas is surging at the right time, and they have everyone healthy. I like the Cowboys here in a desert shootout, 27-24.
I like the Cowboys. I don't like them that close. I think they're going to blow them out a little more.
Line 6.5.
I saw that. I don't know. I think the Cowboys will win. Give me them by 7. Let's go like 34-24. This makes me think about this. We're going to do one more aspect today. I'm going to do it real quick. give me your. I'm gonna read you off right now, in order.
I'm looking at the schedule on my computer as well.
No. We're gonna do something different. I'm gonna change it up. I'm gonna read you off in order the playoff teams right now, before 2 games to play.
Okay.
I want to know your 14 teams. This is where it stands today. Kansas City 1, Tennessee 2, Cincinnati 3, Buffalo 4, Indianapolis 5, New England 6, and Miami 7. Who are your 7 teams in it right now?
In the AFC right now, I'd go Kansas City 1.
Okay. Agreed.
I'm going to go Tennessee 2.
Okay.
I'm going to go Buffalo 3, Cincinnati 4. Your wild cards, this is the splitting hairs. Splitting hairs. New England's going to make it. I mean, we're just going to face the facts.
It's hard, in my opinion, to rank the wild card team. I can pick them because I don't know the whole tiebreakers and everything.
I'm going to say I'm going to take New England. I'm going to take Indianapolis. That 7th spot, I'm going to... If everything falls right, and I think it can, Pittsburgh.
Okay, so here's where there's a playoff predictor out there that you can predict games.
Yeah, I've been doing it all week at work because I was so slow with the holidays.
And here's where mine's a little different. And I don't remember. I wish I would have done this beforehand today, but I didn't. Kansas City definitely won. I don't see Tennessee being a 2. If they can sneak up...
Look at their last 2 games, though.
I think they're going to lose today. So, they'll go to 10-6. They'll win next week 11-6. I don't know. Do they have a tiebreaker over the Bills?
I think they beat them head-to-head. Let me bring up Buffalo. You want to entertain the masses here, Dave?
The Titans did head-to-head. So, yeah, they're going to be 2. Give me Buffalo 3. Why am I smiling, Brennan? Who's going to be 4?
You're going to go homer on me here. You're going to go homer on me.
I see the Bengals struggling down the stretch, losing today and losing to the Browns next week. The Steelers are going to win the division because Ben announced his retirement, and we're going to go all the way. All the way to Super Bowl. Yeah, right. No, we're across the first round. But give me... Yeah, so give me Pittsburgh 4, and then I'm going to take... Let's see. I don't know. Indianapolis, New England, Miami.
You like Miami that much?
I think
they have New England weeks 18.
I agree.
And potentially, New England could be even playing for the division title.
Right. I think my aspect, though, is that...
It's at Miami.
Yes. And that's also putting in the factor of the Bengals are going to lose the division. Excuse me. I think if the Bengals win the division, then it's the Steelers.
At 7. I'm hoping for the Steelers at 7 because they played Tennessee first round.
I think we could beat Tennessee.
We could beat Tennessee.
I think we can.
Especially if Henry's not on schedule. I don't know his update.
I don't really want to win against Tennessee because then it's going to be miserable for the next week and then go play Kansas City and get
at Kansas City
at Arrowhead. But all right, rapid fire. Let's get these NFL picks for the day off, and then we're going to talk about the Steelers a little bit. So, Bills Falcons.
Give me the Bills.
Bills as well. Bears Giants.
Bears.
Bears. I take the Bears too. Chiefs Bengals. We both took the Chiefs.
Yep.
Titans Dolphins.
We split.
You took the Titans. I took the Dolphins. Colts Raiders.
Both took the Colts.
So took the Colts. Patriots Jags.
New England, not even close.
Yeah, I don't think so. Bucks Jets.
Bucks
as well. Washington Philadelphia.
This is interesting because both these teams are playing for the playoffs.
I agree.
Eagles.
Give me the football team. I think the Eagles are going to struggle today. Rams Ravens.
Rams
too. I like Tyler.
Baltimore's
playing well.
Baltimore's beat up.
Yeah, they're done. Broncos
Chargers.
Broncos. I think Herbert got exposed last week. Is Eckler playing today?
I'm not sure. I haven't followed. I know they're in the playoff hunt, but
they struggled without Eckler last week. I mean, their replacement did well.
In order for the Steelers to get the 7th seed, they would need the Chargers to either lose this week or next week. I'm taking them to lose next week to the Raiders because they'll be playing for the playoffs as well.
You think the Raiders are going to sneak in?
No, they're still going to be in it.
Oh,
you know what I mean?
Yeah. Let's look up Austin Eckler. He was activated on Monday, so he is playing. So, I don't know.
That's at Los Angeles.
Yeah, I still have the Broncos. All right. Texans, 49ers.
49ers are playing for the playoffs.
Give me another upset. Because Jimmy Garoppolo's not playing. He's out.
Trey Lance.
I don't think he's good enough. The Texans have actually been streaking. They won a couple games.
It's on the West Coast. I'll take the Niners.
Give me the Texans. All right, Cowboys, Cardinals. We both took the Cowboys, right?
Yep.
Okay. Saints, Panthers.
Saints.
Give me the Saints. Seahawks, Lions.
Seattle.
Seattle as well. Packers, Vikings. Have you looked into this game yet?
Yes, and I know the Vikings are playing for the playoffs, but I don't like them. I don't trust them. I think they're a year or two away. I think they need a quarterback. Cousins is good, but he's the new Alex Smith. He can win them games.
Agreed.
Manage the game. Give me the Packers in a blowout. It's at Lambeau.
Sunday night, right?
Yep.
Okay. Kickoff temperature. You want to guess it?
-5.
Close. 8.
Well, that's the only reason I said -5 is
snowed, I think, up there too. So.
I was checking on some stats from the Winter Classic last night, and
that was disgusting.
The Winter Classic was the coldest in history, -6.
Remember when it played here and it was raining?
Yeah, I remember that one against Washington. And then they played that Stadium Series game here against Philadelphia, and I was there.
So I'll give the Packers as well. All right, Steelers, Browns.
Steelers, not even close.
Yeah,
not even remotely close.
I have a risk-free bet because I lost my 5-team parlay. Thank you on this. I almost won $200 last night. So I have a risk-free bet up to $20 today. I'm putting it all on the Steelers on the money line because I think they're going to win. But all right, let's talk. Steelers demise, issues of losing. What happened in Kansas City?
Well, let's get this right. Both teams were off on third down. Pittsburgh was 5 for 13, and Kansas City was 4 for 11.
Jesus.
Kansas City had the ball for 34 minutes and 42 seconds, almost 10 minutes longer than the Steelers. 25 minutes 18 seconds.
Disgusting.
Turnovers. Pittsburgh had 3 total, 2 fumbles, and a Roethlisberger pick, while KC managed 0. That's what was KC's problem all year. Mahomes is throwing interceptions. Right. They don't have that number 2 receiver since Watkins left in free agency.
Well, and we've been playing well, too, defensively. That's why I figured we could get at least 1 pick or 1 fumble.
Pittsburgh could get nothing going the entire game, and when they did, it was a turnover or a penalty. Roethlisberger looked awful for most of the game. The defense looked below average the entire game. Got no pressure on Mahomes at all. And let me say this right now. To everyone who says Roethlisberger is washed up and he's old, first off, you're half right. He's old. I mean, come on, he's 39 years old. Played in the AFC North in a brutal era. Lewis, Reed, the Bengals had a good defense. The Browns were losing, but their defense was still good.
Agreed.
I mean, come on. Just because he's older, he can't do what he did 10 years ago. This isn't Ben from 10 years ago.
He can't run anymore.
He can't run anymore. He's a pocket passer quarterback. He was always a pocket passer quarterback. But let's just take Ben out of this year. The Steelers are 3-12 right now with Mason Rudolph.
I don't think we're that bad. I think we're...
I don't think they're that bad. I think Mason Rudolph's that bad.
I think we'd be like 6-11. But here's my issue. The Rooneys need to fire Mike Tomlin. I don't think he's going to correct anything.
I'm 100% with you. And you know what? The Steelers don't hire a head coach.
No.
The Pittsburgh Steelers hire a pope. Until you are ready to call it quits, that's when you're done.
Agreed.
And Mike Tomlin's son, I don't know if you know this, plays at the University of Maryland. He doesn't play. He's not good.
I knew he went down there because he played at Shady Side.
That's where they're from. They're from the Maryland, Virginia Beach area, right around there. He's not any good. Mike Tomlin is going to be here at least 2 more years to make sure his son gets on the Pittsburgh Steelers practice squad so he can get a pension eventually.
Probably, you're right.
But
here's what frustrates me about them, because like you look at the coaching aspect, that is, I think, the demise of this
look at the coaches. Look at the personnel this year too. That's why we're not winning games.
Okay, so you're 2 games out of a playoff. I mean, you're 2 games out of the rest of the regular season, playing for a playoff spot. Your offensive line coach says, Hey, Mike, I want to go coach the offensive line of Oregon.
And you know what? Mike hired this guy.
Right. Why are you letting him go? Like, I get it. One, shame on that guy for, I think his name is Adrian Clemmer or whatever his name is, I forget.
Mm-hmm.
Shame on him for looking at that job, because the freaking head coach of Oregon's still coaching in the college football playoff. So you're telling me you're going to go do recruiting? Bull. You just wanted out. One, I think he's terrible. He hasn't done anything all year.
Steelers haven't had an offensive line coach since Bob Munchak left a few years ago for Denver. Why'd they let him go?
Here's what I'd like to see, a couple different things. We're going to talk about this later on, but if I'm Art, Dan Rooney, right? It's not Art anymore.
It is Art.
It's Art.
Dan passed.
So I would clean slate. I know he's not going to do that. So if Tomlin stays, I'm sorry, I'm getting a new offensive coordinator.
He's passed to offensive. Canada?
Hired within. They won't make a splash coaching decision. If they go hire somebody that's...
You know what? Now that if it is true, and we will say a little tribute to Big Ben when the show's wrapping up. The only reason Todd Haley didn't work out, and he did. They scored points. Lev Bell, Antonio Brown, him and Ben clashed, and he didn't like that.
Right. So we talked about this before, you and I, that like they wanted somebody that Ben would get along with, that Ben could jive with. I 100% agree. You have to have an offense coordinator when you have a quarterback like that. They have to agree. Then let him have more reins. When they let Ben basically coach the game and run the no huddle, they succeed. When Canada's coaching the game, I mean, for God's sakes, a toss play.
Toss plays, screen passes on 3rd and 15.
Right. I mean, I get their big splash play potentially, but throw the ball for the yard of gain.
And you know what? Let's talk about some personnel issues real quick. They have a bell cow running back for the first time since Jerome Bettis.
He made a tweet or a post the other day about how someone asked him about being happy with his 1,000 yards. He said it was the hardest 1,000 yards he's ever run for.
Oh, I'm sure. You know, he's still like 16 away. He's not at 1,000 yet. He needs 16 yards tonight and next week to hit over 1,000. They have a bell cow for the first time since Jerome Bettis. And I don't want to hear about Le'Veon Bell. He was always hurt. He was holding out. He was not a team player.
I like Najee. I think he's.
I love him. You know, I love him in Alabama.
Heck of a year for not having an offensive line.
They don't have a clear-cut number one wide receiver. They have Deontay Johnson. They have Chase Claypool. Juju broke what, his shoulder at the beginning of the year?
I think Deontay's our number one. I think the problem is we don't have number two. Claypool's too immature. I think with Juju in the lineup this year, it's a different offense.
James Washington was a bust.
I don't think he's a bust. I don't think
you just didn't think he didn't get a fair shake.
No. I mean, when you're targeting, and don't, Matt Canada, you can go scratch, saying that, you know, Ray's just getting open because they're covering Deontay and Claypool. Bull. You're targeting Ray for no reason like they used to target Ryan Switzer back in the day. Like, I don't... James Washington's sitting on the bench, and you're not playing him. He should be your number 3. And Ray should be packing his bags, going to go bag groceries at Giant Eagle.
You know, I don't have a problem with Ray getting in the game. He's an okay wide receiver number 4 to have. But at number 4...
Right.
He should get on the field for a handful of snaps a game,
10,
just when
12.
guys need a breather.
Right.
But he's a special teams player.
I think what hurt last week was not having Freiermuth. I mean, he's having a heck of a season.
And you know what? The Steelers, since as long as I can remember, they can never have just a special teams player.
No.
They want these guys to be a utility knife. Mm-hmm. Dre Archer, we saw how that worked.
I thought he was going to have a heck of a year. But he was just, I think he was too quick for his britches a little bit.
You know, he was here, 2 years, and then they cut him out on a rookie deal.
Yeah.
Jacoby Jones, I know he was at the end of his career, but he was still a heck of a kick returner and punt returner.
You talk about personnel, though. I think the issue is there needs to be a lot of more structured personnel changes. So the biggest one, in my opinion, is the offensive line.
Oh, yeah, and you know what? I'm tired of hearing, everyone talk, Rodgers is going to come to Pittsburgh. Wilson's going to... Why would you? There is some nice pieces. But if you go through the whole Steelers roster, Dave, and you look at it, who do you really want to keep? There's 10 or 15 guys you might want to keep. And I made a list here. If I had to protect players saying, hey, you're going to be part of this rebuild, not a retool, a rebuild.
It's a complete rebuild, but yeah, go ahead.
TJ Watt, Micah Fitzpatrick, Alex Highsmith is showing promise. Cam Hayward even though he's at the tail end of his career.
You still haven't had
Najee Harris, Pat Freiermuth, Deontay Johnson, Chase Claypool, Dan Moore, Kendrick Green, Kevin Dotson, Chris Boswell. It's 12 guys. I said if I had to protect somewhere from 10 to 15, and you know what? The offensive linemen, those three I named.
Well, you didn't count Freiermuth, did you?
I did. I said Pat. It's 6.
Okay.
So I have 12 people here.
I agree. The only ones I would... Most of yours...
Those offensive linemen are work in progress. They're 3, 4, and 5th round picks or later. They're works in progress. That's okay with me because you know what? They've all showed some promise here and there during the season.
But I think what they need to do, though, is to save Dan Moore a little bit. They need to go get somebody as a left tackle in free agency to be the blindside protector. Shift him to right tackle. That'd be the first shift I'd make. And then if you wanted to just put a Band-Aid on it for a year, go draft the Iowa center.
Draft any offensive lineman. I don't care.
Draft the Iowa center.
Green can play guard.
Put Green back at guard where he's supposed to play.
You have Green and Dotson at guard. That's okay.
Is a phenomenal guard. I think he's going to have a great career. I like Trey Turner, but Chuka Okorafor is just not doing. I mean, he's statistically shown he's doing the job, but I don't know. My 12 would be similar. The only person I would probably add is Cam Sutton. He's having a decent year in the secondary. Chris Wormley, pretty decent year.
Good defense. Like I'm not taking Tuitt. He's always hurt.
No, Tuitt needs to literally retire. The one person I would take though, who's had some flashes, Taco Charlton's had a decent depth year, not bad, but that's about it. 15 players max. I'd clean house. I mean, is it possible to do that? No, because of the salary cap and everything else. But I think there's a lot of personnel issues. I think Matt Cannon needs to go. Keith Butler needs to go. The offensive line coach needs to get hired. I think if Ben's going to officially retire, they've got to hire a quarterback coach to actually, mold somebody. Because Ben's been his own. I mean, they have one, but he's basically been the quarterback coach. I think there's a lot of issues that I just don't know if Mike Tomlin can fix them.
Besides the 12 players, I think everyone else is fair game being traded or cut. The Steelers have a lot of money to spend this offseason. Their cap is going to go up tremendously.
60-some or 70-some.
They're the third most in the NFL.
Yeah.
But when you're targeting Ray McFreaking-Cloud 8 times against the Kansas City Chiefs, that's an issue.
So here's my question. If Juju says he wants to come back on a small deal, you bring him back?
Yeah, because you know what? He's going to take less than what he even took this year. What did he take this year? $8 million?
I agree. I think they could bring Juju back.
And you know what? When they have all this money, they might say, hey, here's a 3-year deal. Here's $24 million. Do you want to stay for 3 years?
I would bring Juju back because then I would prioritize offensive line. And that's it on the offense. I'm so tired of, I know Pat Freiermuth had a heck of a year. I know Claypool, has been doing well. I'm so tired of just getting offensive player after offensive player after offensive player after offensive player. Devin Bush, pre-ACL, different player.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't understand their draft logic. I don't understand. The other person I'd say would be on the chopping block, Kevin Colbert. I mean, you're a GM.
Well, he signs a year-to-year basis deal. I think he's done.
Is that all it is?
I think him and Roethlisberger are kind of tied at the hip.
Colbert wanted to leave to go to Detroit, didn't he?
Yeah, but I really think that was hey, I'm going to retire, but I want to stay another year. Me and Ben are tied at the hip.
I don't like as a GM, I get it, you're strapped with so many things, and the code protocols have been screwing a lot of, depth issues, yada, yada, yada. But he's not getting the players there. I mean, look at the Ravens. How many players they've had out, and they're still competing. I mean, yeah, they're not winning games, no, because they're playing a tough schedule down the stretch.
I mean, Harbaugh's a good coach,
right? But they're but their players are there too. I think that's half the issue. I think we're not having the players there. We don't know how to coach.
And you know what? Let's talk a little bit more about Mike Tomlin here. He is awful. He is Coach Cliche.
Yep.
They make these free agent signings that you think, oh man, they signed someone. They
I was
don't
excited for Melvin Ingram. I was excited.
listen to these names. Mike Tomlin likes to hype up misfits. Ladarius Green, Lance Moore, Ryan Switzer, Dante Moncrief, Morgan Burnett, LeGarrette Blount, Mike Mitchell. Any of those names ring a bell for you Steelers fans?
I like Mike Mitchell. I think LeGarrette Blount just liked the lead too much. Dante Moncrief, yeah.
Tomlin's drafts have always been awful.
I mean, name me a player in the last 5 years that has had a consecutive or 2 or 3 good seasons after draft.
3 playoff wins in 11 years. No Super Bowls reached in over a decade. And what's sad, they had the team to do it for a few years. Ben, Bell, Brown, Bryant.
I agree. I think half of the issue with that team, I mean, yes, they
And you know what? The defense was horrendous at that point. You know, Pittsburgh won every game in a shootout. The defense was terrible, you know, when they had that. But they still managed to win 9 to 12 games a year.
I mean, look at, even though Antonio Brown's a dimwit, he went to the Patriots and Belichick controlled him a little bit.
One game. What do you have? 4 catches for like 60-something yards and a touchdown?
I mean, he's been playing well at the Bucs. He just had the issue with the COVID vaccine card, but like, I think half the reason why those two exploded the way Le'Veon and Antonio did was because there was no leadership in the locker room. Everyone talks about how Mike Tomlin's the biggest leader and yada yada yada, all this.
He's a player's coach.
He does whatever the players want. But then that's where it's frustrating. It's like, if I'm Cam Hayward, who I'm thinking is, when Ben leaves, he's number one in terms of leadership. TJ's a little younger. If I'm Cam and TJ, I'm walking right into Rooney's office and saying, fire him. Or I'm leaving. But, alright, let's talk Big Ben. Finally, we think gonna hang it up, huh? Let me do my little tribute, and then you can do yours. When we were younger, when Ben started his career, I'll never forget watching him play. I had a jersey. I don't have a Ben jersey. My mom has a white one. I might wear it tomorrow, just if she doesn't wear it to school. But heck of a career. Led me to some of my favorite moments ever. Watching him make that tackle against Indianapolis, winning that Super Bowl, the first one, coming off his bike incident. My pap will never let me live this down. He kept saying, you know, when Ben got hurt in that motorcycle accident, he always said that he's never been right in the head ever since.
I think a lot of people say that.
All the issues that he's had in his life. I mean, he's a family man now. He's fixed all his wrongs. One quick story about me was, I think it was his first or second year, one of the two, when he started to come out. I had to do the Pinewood Derby back then with the Cub Scouts, so we had to make our own car and design it. I designed a Ben Roethlisberger car. It was a Steelers car. It had a number 7 on it. And I had to look up how to spell his name because I didn't know how to spell it. No one knew how to spell it back then. It was all, you know, how do you spell this freaking weird name from, you know, Ohio? But heck of a career. I know I've, you know, said a lot of bad things about him lately because he's aging, but I think it's just the product around him more. I wish he was able to go out in the way that he should be going out. You know, I hope that the Steelers can figure out a way to pull away and make a playoff spot for him, for his sake. I really thought about going tomorrow night. I had a chance to go to the game and get tickets to that game, but the organization as a whole is just frustrating me, so I don't want to spend another dime on them. But hats off to Big Ben, man. Hats off to Big Ben.
Well, first off, you know, he amazed all of us with his record-breaking rookie year, taking them the whole way to the AFC title. You know, he followed up with a promise to Jerome Bettis, one of your best friends. Went on a 2-year run, won a Super Bowl, won one for the thumb in Super Bowl 40. 2 seasons later, took us back to the Super Bowl and was the first quarterback to lead an organization to a 6th ring in Super Bowl 43. You made amazing plays for 18 seasons for Steelers Nation. Led us to 3 Super Bowls, winning 2 of them, a 6-time Pro Bowler, the 5th all-time leading passer, and a first ballot Hall of Fame resume. I could go on and type up a novel Ben, thank you for all you've done for the city of Pittsburgh and Steelers Nation. You'll forever be a Yinzer and an all-time great to the Pittsburgh Steelers franchise. Thank you, Seven.
Great career.
Phenomenal.
Great career. Should have had a third ring. Should have beat the Packers that year.
They go watch that game. Go watch that. The Steelers beat themselves.
All right, so we're gonna close up today's show. A lot of topics. We've talked a little bit longer than we wanted to. That always happens. So Brighter than I. But thank you for listening to episode 3. We're gonna deem this one the Big Ben tribute. That's gonna be the name. Big Ben tribute, or I might call it Thank You 7.
Thank you, Seven.
Thank you, 7.
I like that.
But next week we'll be back. We're probably gonna record on Saturday or Sunday. We're gonna record a little bit of the college football preview. Talk a little bit about NFL or the college football championship. I'm sorry. Talk a little bit about the NFL playoffs, what's upcoming, and jump into the new year. So if there's a topic. Brandon and I have been kind of brainstorming some topics to talk about in the offseason. We're going to talk a little bit about basketball and other things. If there's a topic that you want to talk about, shoot us a message, let us know.
Guys, fans drive this show.
Absolutely.
Message us. Comment. If you know us personally, text, email. Fans drive our show.
Because I'm hoping next week I'm going to do a little high school segment because the classifications are supposed to get released sometime this week, next week. I know officially where I'm at. I'm back in single A, baby. But the parameter is so large that it might be like freaking 28 teams in single A softball, for God's sake. But we'll talk more about that. So, for Brennan, for Dave, hope you're enjoying your new year, and go Steelers.
Happy New Year, Dave.